Welcome into the Jon and Lebo show. John Sokolov here with Alex Lebowitz. Alex, it's been a while. Where were you for 2 weeks? You weren't here. I don't know where you were.
You don't. Okay, that's weird. I guess I didn't tell you. I went to Israel for
No.
10 days. It was
Yeah, I
a
know. I
life
know.
changing.
I know.
You do know. You do know.
Yeah,
I said it on
we
the
talked.
show. I said,
Yeah, we talked about it. We talked about it. I think I spoke to you while you were there most days. It was a joke. You ruined it. Congratulations. So
thank
how was the
you,
trip?
thank you. Uh, it was awesome. It was a life changing experience. It really was. If you were a Jew and you have not yet gone to Israel, do it. It's incredible. For me, I'm from a town in Massachusetts that's about 10% Jews. In the United States of America, that's considered a heavily populated Jewish town, like a heavy Jewish population for a town to have 10%. Still, in high school, I was the Jewish kid. In middle school, I was the Jewish kid. In elementary school, you can probably guess that I was a Jewish kid. Preschool, I went to preschool at my local temple. So we were all Jewish kids there. But you go to Israel, it's 80% Jews. It's like everyone's a Jew. You don't feel like the Jewish kid. You feel like, these are my people.
What does that mean? You give it like a negative connotation.
It's not a negative thing. It's just like I'm an introvert by nature. I don't like to stick out, which is hard when you're 230 plus pounds. I won't say the exact weight. So it's for me, I don't, it's not, I'm proud to be Jewish. I was always proud to be the Jewish kid, but you're not really ingrained in your culture when you're in the States. You're not really that's really what it is. You go to Israel and you're with, excuse me, you're with a bunch of Jews, both from across this country and Israeli soldiers as well, who do birthright with you. And I got to tell you, one, being ingrained in your culture for 10 days really, it gives you an appreciation of your roots, a huge appreciation. I came back the proudest Jew you could ever imagine. And two, Israelis are badass, amazing people, like awesome, way better than Americans, like just awesome people. These kids, they're not even kids. They're late teens, early 20s, but they act like adults. They're 19 to 23 was the age range for these kids. The trip was 22 to 26 for the Americans. And all these soldiers were like the most down to earth, like mature people, like great to shoot the shit with, like just awesome, like good-hearted people. And they're no different than you or I. And I think I had an ignorant view on what people in Israel would be like. Most of it's secular. It's not a bunch of Orthodox Jews with the sideburns and top hats. It's people like you and I. The only difference between us and them is the boat that we left Europe on. So, you go there, you have a huge appreciation for your culture. You have a huge appreciation for Israel. I'll say that without getting too political, but you have a huge appreciation for the state of Israel. And I'm 100% going back within the next couple of years to see it again, to visit the friends I've made, and to explore my roots a little bit more. And John, I know you haven't gone, but you're graduating this upcoming semester. I urge you to go. You have to. Like, it's not even like you're going.
It's a free trip, so I'm definitely going to try to figure that out. If it definitely works in my schedule, I would do it. But it sounds like it was awesome. I've heard cool things about Tel Aviv. I've heard cool things about like just finding out stuff about like your culture and stuff. That just
Jerusalem. Jerusalem was about. Tel Aviv's great, but Tel Aviv is like any U.S. city. It's very westernized. You go to Jerusalem, you're there Friday night for the Sabbath, and it's like you're at the Western Wall. Thousands of Jews just partying, like drunk on God, they call it. Like, it's not like there's no booze or anything like that. But you put your, you got one arm around some guy you never met, another arm around another guy you never met before, but you feel like family. You're dancing, you're chanting. There was even like the White Snake song, Seven Nation Army or whatever it is. Oh, they do it at games. They were chanting that at the Western Wall. It was like a freaking tailgate. It was like a playoff game. It's not like that every day, but on the Sabbath, Friday nights, it's a party. It's camaraderie. And like, you think back to 75 years, what it was like to be a Jew in this world. You didn't have that. You come to today, 2017, you have a place for the Jews to call home. I could go there right now and become a citizen. You could go there right now and become a citizen of Israel. There's nothing like that anywhere else in the world for other religions, but it's justified for Jews. I think it's an unbelievable place, and you get a feeling. One more story. I know I'm dragging on, but just to like show you the history of what it's like here. We had our tour guide Rocky. We were on our way to the West Bank. We're going to meet with a Palestinian man who's going to give us the Palestinian perspective of this whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And we're driving, and then randomly, Rocky gets on the microphone, and he goes, "Okay, guys, if you look to your left, that is where David fought Goliath." And it's like, like we're literally just driving on a random road in Israel, and it just like I looked, I'm just that's like David and Goliath, like probably the most referenced biblical story of all time, happened like right like 100 feet from where I am right now.
That's hilarious.
It was the funniest thing. Like it was funny and also just like put everything in perspective, like in regard to how much history there is in Israel. It was an unbelievable experience. I can't recommend it more. I wish I was still there. Tomorrow it'll be 2 weeks that I've been home tomorrow. But like I've been having dreams about Israel. Like I don't even dream. I've been having like vivid dreams about being in Israel like most nights since I've been home. I want to be back.
Awesome, man. I'm so happy that was that kind of an experience for you. And if I ever get the chance to go, I hope it's the same for me. You want to get into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So the NFL training camp just started this week for most teams. I think all teams started where like the rookies are reporting now, veterans are reporting later in the week. But there was an interesting CTE report that came out, and obviously, you know, the NFL is not too fond of these, and people are saying that it'll kill the sport. I definitely don't believe that. But here's the so Dr. Ann McKee, I think, did this was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association.
It's done at BU. I think these studies have been done at Boston University.
So there were 202 like brains that they looked at, and like a former like I think college football players. Of just football players in general, and 111 of them were from players from the NFL. 110 of those brains were found to have CTE, and which is obviously the big by repeated blows to the head. And if you look at per position, 44 of these were linemen, 20 were running backs, 17 D-backs, 13 linebackers, 7 quarterbacks, 5 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and then 1 punter and 1 kicker. I thought that was pretty interesting. But basically what this is saying is, from this study alone, don't play linemen, and there's about a 50% chance that you don't get CTE.
Yeah. It's also, I was listening to Mike and Mike this morning on ESPN, and Mike Greenberg had a good point. I'm not usually a guy who lines up with him with my sports takes, but this is a very deceptive sample. Right. We all know football is a dangerous sport, but these are 200 people who had their families donate their brains for them, or maybe in a suicide note. I know that's a little morbid, but maybe in a suicide note, donate my brain, like have them study my body. Like his name's slipping my mind, but there's a guy who shot himself in the chest so that he'd save his brain for science. But the main point is this isn't this isn't a large enough sample size to say that 90% of all football players have CTE. It's still alarming, though. It's still alarming. We know football is bad for you. It's bad for your head. If you want to have a good life post-retirement, don't play football. Don't be a professional athlete in the NFL, even evidently as a kicker or punter. So it's awful. I think everyone knows this by now. I don't think there's going to be a study that comes out, which is the bombshell, where people are like, "Oh, my kid's not playing football." Like you've made your mind up by now. Like if you haven't yet, then I don't know what you're waiting for. I know for me personally, I don't think I'd let my kid play football. And you're talking to someone who grew up in a football family. 2 of my brothers played collegiate football. My dad played collegiate football. I played through high school, and we've all played contact or collision sport our entire lives. I know at this point, probably not the best thing to do. If you're an athlete, it's better to go off in another sport. What does this mean for football in the future? I don't know. I think it's on the decline already. I think athletes are picking other sports. You look at Pop Warner participation; it's way down. It's way down the past 15 years. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And all the NFL is trying to do right now is limit the damage and limit this reporting, which any corporation is going to try to do to help their brand.
Yeah, I mean, it's too big. Like I've heard multiple people say, which is just so dumb, that it's gonna kill it. It's too big to fall. It's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Like, it's not gonna. But less people are gonna play because of this. Maybe it might be a deceptive study because it's only of a minimal amount of people that have played. But when you look at, like, people are gonna see this and be like, wow, this study came out of 110 people, and out of 111 that just have CTE. So now they're a kid playing football to have CTE. Like, even if these were just NFL players, I'm sure this will happen to younger players too. Like, why would I subject my kid to that? But there's also a lot of people that are just going to say, "Oh no, the game's changing." You know, Pop Warner now they changed it where they train lower, and that'll really reduce the amount. Like, this study hasn't done that yet. The NFL's working on new helmets for brain preservation, I guess you could say, or to protect the brain more. So they're always going to have a little loophole around it, and I think there's always going to be enough people to play football. I guess what's going to happen is they're going to lose out on a lot of potential athletes that could be very good for the game because of how it is for injuries and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still the NFL still, maybe the NBA might pass it. Who knows? Because of these TV ratings, this new TV deal that the NBA got, I think it's I forget, $24 billion over a certain amount of years. So players are getting more money, teams, all that. Maybe the NBA might take over it, but at the same time, the NFL is still a powerhouse, and it would take a long time for any demise to occur within it.
Yeah, this isn't something that's going to happen overnight. You still look at the talent that's coming out of the NCAA. It's unreal. It's still the best of the best.
It's a risk, it's literally just a risk to play in football. I'm not going to not watch football because all the brain injuries. I know that these players get on the field every day. They know that they're taking a risk with playing and going on the field. That's just their I don't want to say it. This makes me kind of sound like a dick, but it's kind of their problem that they are dealing with that.
Well, I mean, you're kind of ignoring the fact that the NFL has been ignoring this fact for years and years.
I mean,
so that's where what it really comes down to. It's the fact that the NFL has put their players at risk, knowing what's to come from these hits. And you talk about changing the helmets and whatnot. Guess what? A helmet in the NFL, in football in general, is used as a weapon. That's not going to change.
Of course it is.
So you want to get rid of all these concussions.
Before supposedly, right now, that's how it was taught before. How the lead with your head, to hit with that. That's how people were taught, to tackle people back in the day. Now apparently, going lower. Come on.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, and it's not rugby. You can't do a double leg takedown to make a tackle. It's it's not going to change. I'm curious to see where the NFL is in 15 years. You say it's not going to change. It's not something that changes overnight. I think that in 10 years, the product will be worse. I think in 10 years, you're looking at the NBA as probably the forefront of all professional sports in regard to viewership, profit, and talent level. That's where these guys are going. Maybe the linemen are going to play baseball instead. Who knows? But that's also participation in baseball is also down. So we'll see. One thing's for sure: all these reports coming out, it's not good for the NFL. But I don't think it's as damaging as it initially was. I think we know what we're going to get from the NFL, and we know the repercussions of playing football.
And when you look at everyone else with the whole, this one study isn't going to change. Most people think one way, they think they're going to have their kids play, and some people think another way and think okay, yeah, well, I already thought this way. This one study isn't going to change things. We'll definitely see. But there's a lot of interesting storylines going into training camp. Starting last week, you have Texan team that traded away Brock Osweiler. They have Deshaun Watson, who's looking to be their quarterback. Who knows?
And Tom Savage.
Yeah. Tom Savage. Why you trapped so hard? Yeah, he will. He'll be backing him up too. You have the Patriots, who look better than they ever have, in my opinion. I think maybe 2014 they might have looked a little better, but this team looks really.
This team is probably better than the 07 team. I think on paper.
But you also there's also Kirk Cousins. He clearly doesn't want to be in Washington. He'll be gone. The Cowboys with all the domestic violence stuff going on with their teams. Just there's a lot of interesting storylines. The season will be good. Last year, the product really wasn't great, and there were a lot of bad teams, and there wasn't many good games in the playoffs, and that was annoying.
You think this year's different?
I hope it will be. Last year was horrible. The AFC playoffs were really bad. That Dolphins Steelers game stunk. That other the Raiders Texans game because a car stunk. That even the Steelers Chiefs game was. There were no good games in the AFC playoffs.
Well, let me ask you this: after the Patriots, and then we'll bunch the Raiders in there. After the Patriots and the Raiders, who's really a contender in the AFC?
As of right now, I mean, maybe the Steelers or Ravens will emerge to be a much better team. But last year they didn't show that much. Even though the Steelers quietly got to the AFC Championship game, the Pats manhandled them. The Pats, no one in the AFC can challenge that team. I'm looking more at the NFC. I think there's a lot of really good teams there that could show something. You got Mitch Trubisky in Chicago, obviously.
Oh, that's going to be a really good team.
Make a huge impact right away, but they're looking long term. You got a team like the 49ers looking long term. Maybe those two teams will be better like in the future. Maybe the Lions will take a step up. The Seahawks are declining. The Packers, who knows what Aaron Rodgers can do with that team? He can only do so much. That roster is not really great. A lot of interesting NFC storylines as opposed to the who can maybe beat the Patriots once in the regular season.
But let's stick with the training camp. What storylines in this training camp? Anyone who you think might be signed? Anyone who you think may be cut? Anyone who might emerge as a star? Any rookies that you're looking out for?
I mean, there's a lot of I really like Solomon Thomas hasn't been signed by the 49ers yet, but watching him at Stanford, he was explosive. Myles Garrett was explosive, the #1 overall pick. I'm really honestly I'm looking at the Browns. I think the Browns actually have like a good young team. They got Jabril Peppers and Myles Garrett, two really good. And from what I've heard from Brock Osweiler, based on Hugh Jackson press conferences, the guy's been doing really well at camp there, and they just traded to get him just to get that second-round pick because the Texans wanted to get rid of him. But if he's doing really well and he starts from week 1, Hugh Jackson's a good coach. Mm-hmm. They're in the right direction. I think they're going to be not a playoff team, but they're definitely going to be better, and they're doing things the right way.
Yeah, I look at the Browns, and this might be an unpopular opinion. I think Brock Osweiler is probably better than the majority of backup quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's a guy who can start for you, and he can do the job. Awful last season, terrible. I still think he has talent. That might be an unpopular opinion again, but he has shown it in the past. Maybe he can find it again. The Cleveland Browns team, they have a very young defense, but they're a good young defense. They have a lot of weapons, a lot of flashy players. Their offense still has a ways to go, but they have a bunch of young wide receivers. It's a young team. I think they're in a better position than they have been, in my lifetime. Like one of the best positions they've been in the past decade. That's not really saying much considering their track record. But that's a team you look at and you're like, okay, 2-3 years, maybe they can be a 9 or 10 win team. Maybe. Maybe they can get to that point sooner rather than later. Who knows? But I definitely look at the Browns as an intriguing team. It's a new management. Hugh Jackson obviously gets a bad rep, but he is a decent coach. And I wouldn't really take what he's saying about Brock Osweiler that seriously. Every coach is going to hype up their players unless you're Bill Belichick.
Well, there's also guys there that could start for them. They drafted Deshaun Kaiser in the 5th round. He could maybe start. They also, I forget who else they signed, but they have other, it's going to be a quarterback battle. So that's the only reason why. If he was a general consensus #1 starter, Brock Osweiler, then I wouldn't take these comments held into too high of a regard. But the fact that he is hyping him up, not hyping him up, but he was saying good things about him, and it's a quarterback battle, that shows me a little bit. But I
don't think they want to go with the 5th round pick as their starting quarterback.
Well, right, but people said that about Russell Wilson with the Seahawks. Look at that a couple years ago, 2012. He was a 4th round pick out of Wisconsin. It was a battle between him and Matt Flynn. Remember they signed Matt Flynn to that big deal? It was all right. Well, is it going to be Russell Wilson or is it going to be Matt Flynn or maybe even Tavares Jackson? Who knows? And they started Wilson. You got to go with the best guys available. Who's the most ready? I don't know if Kaiser's that good, but they could be looking at him for a guy long term. Who knows? They're in a good position where they have a few good young quarterbacks. And they're just going to think, Cody Kessler too. That's the other guy from USC who showed some promise last year. Hugh Jackson's actually got some good quarterbacks at training camp, and he's going to see, okay, well, I'm just going to play the best one. And it's plain and simple. Whoever fits this offense well. Hugh Jackson's an offensive mind. He was the OC in Cincinnati for a while. And he'll go there. Another team, quickly, before we move on to Kyrie, the Eagles. I mean, look at all their steps up on offense. One, their offensive line, they'll have Lane Johnson back, who's one of the best tackles in the league. And Alshon Jeffrey, acquiring him, he's looked great in what was it? In training camp so far, but also mini camp as well.
OTAs.
Yeah, I'll actually be at a Eagles training camp next week, so I'll get a good look at that team. But it's been the whole team looks just a lot better. Running back, they have LeGarrette Blount too, who's going to be a good power runner, maybe a good guy. Just if it's like a 3rd and 2, you just put him in there. He'll punch in, get a few yards. I know his stats are a little inflated, but he had 17 touchdowns last season, 18 touchdowns.
And he also ran for like 1,200 yards. So
so he's a good player. They also have Torrey Smith, Alshon Jeffrey. These are two guys that are going to make safeties play back. Two guys that are outside receivers that'll really make the field, create a lot of space on the field for a little dump off passes. They'll make young, talented tight ends like Zach Ertz emerge well. Jordan Matthews, he's in trade talks with Aguilar. Those guys as well. So they're in a good position. I like the Eagles, and if they were to win 9 or 10 games and maybe sneak into a playoff spot, I wouldn't be surprised at that either.
Yeah, that's going to be a good team, and that's a great division they're in between them, the Giants, Cowboys, Redskins, all potential playoff teams in that division. What I want to ask you, though, is will Colin Kaepernick find a home? Will he be signed by the end of this training camp? Will he be on a roster by week 1 of the preseason?
I think that's all, after training camp, we'll really tell if someone's really, let's say we go to Cleveland and say Brock Osweiler really stinks, and even though Hugh's high on him, and let's say Cody Kessler is really not say well or something. Let's say a few of those quarterbacks really stink and shit in the bed. That's just an example. Think of it as another team, maybe Jacksonville, maybe whatever. Team's backup quarterbacks are really shit in the bed. Sign Kaepernick. That's the only real reason I would see him get signed by someone. If there's an injury right before the season starts. But if all quarterbacks stay healthy, then I don't see any team signing him.
What's your take on that? What do you think he's being blackballed? Do you think he should be signed? Do you think it's deserved?
I think he's definitely talented to be signed. The guy went to the Super Bowl 3 years ago, and he was a quarterback for that team. And look, all the stuff going on. I don't fully support everything he's done. I respected his protests, but some of the other stuff that he's done has really rubbed me the wrong way, and it was really radical in my opinion. But I think a lot of teams just see that and just see this guy would be a distraction, and I don't want it in my locker room. It's not anything that he did specifically, but it's I don't want the distraction for our guys in the locker room. It's already easy for NFL locker room to get distracted, and his whole. I completely agree and support his protests, but some of the ways that he's gone about other things have really I don't support. And I think some GMs see that. Other GMs say, hey, I completely support this guy, but I don't want that distraction in the locker room. And people might say that's fair. But at the same time, those people might also be part of the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's well said. I support your right to protest. I support your right to speak freely. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to support what you say, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're free to the repercussions of what you say. I think personally there is a problem with law enforcement in this country. I think he brings a valid point there. I think the way he goes about addressing this issue is irresponsible. I think a lot of things he says is just flat out stupid. His support of Fidel Castro is silliness. The fact that he is so political and outspoken, yet he doesn't vote, is stupid. The guy, I think, is kind of a moron. He's philanthropic. He does good things. I think he is a good person at the end of the day. But I also think a lot of GMs just think he's dumb. I think they look at his actions this guy does a lot of contradicting stuff. Right. And he does a lot of stuff that is just it's so counter what he stands for. Your voice is heard. You choose to not vote. I don't understand how you do that. Depicting cops as animals on his socks. I know it's silly, but that's still he's painting this whole issue with a broad stroke, and it's not just like he's saying, like there are bad eggs in law enforcement. There are people who are bad. He's saying it's all bad. And he's not addressing other problems like black on black violence. It's like, which is a result of this systematic racism. That's, there's a historical context to. I'm not denying that, but it doesn't mean that problem still doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean there's a way to combat that while also combating this other issue. That's just my little political rant on my opinion of Colin Kaepernick. But I mainly think that he's not good enough to put up with his political activism.
He's not.
If he was good enough, then he'd be signed somewhere. There's people who are domestic abusers who get signed, and it's not because they look at them on a higher regard than someone who uses their First Amendment right. It's because they're good enough to play in the NFL. That's the nature of the beast. And one thing I also wanted to address, Connor Weingarten, our dear friend, we got in a Twitter argument, and he was putting words in my mouth, and saying and insinuating that I believed in things that I didn't believe in, which I completely reject and really resent. So I just want to clear the air. I just put my views on this situation out there, and I think it's logical. And I guess some people just want to believe that the NFL is just inherently racist or whatever, or just inherently, I don't know what they're insinuating, but there is a logical reason for why this guy isn't signed, and it's not solely because he speaks his mind. It's because he's pretty careless with the way he does that, and it's because he's not that good anymore. Not rocket science.
We can't he's a distraction, and that's what most teams see. And the NFL is pretty evil. So most teams see all right, this guy's gonna be a distraction, whatever. But he also has a lot of potential to still really be good. If you look at Niners last year with Chip Kelly and that horrible, putrid, just disgusting team that they put on the field. Chip Kelly clearly didn't have control of that team. It was in a horrible situation. So I think teams see potential in Kaepernick. And if someone goes down, maybe they can make it look like, hey, we had to sign him because shit hit the fan.
Let me ask you this. Do you think football is his priority, Colin Kaepernick?
No.
There you go. I think most front office guys are under that assumption. There are other people in the NFL who are outspoken on their respective causes. I don't think anyone's more outspoken on their respective causes. One which is so divisive, it is a polarizing topic, than Colin Kaepernick. So that plays into it. And there probably are racist GMs who just don't like the guy because he's saying stuff they don't like, and he's
not American. He doesn't stand up for the national anthem.
I'm sure Jerry Jones, that piece of shit, is one of these people, because he's an asshole. I hate Jerry. I could go on another tangent on that guy, and that's not right. But there are logical reasons to not want to sign this guy, and for guys like Mike Freeman and Connor Weingarten, who are just painting this whole situation with a broad stroke, and trying to make this make an absolute argument like this is the way it is. No, piss off. That's ridiculous. You're being more closed-minded than the people that you are accusing of being closed-minded. So you honestly need to look at another perspective before just saying an ignorant thing and just trying to make a right or wrong in this argument. That's not how you come to an agreement in anything. That's not how you start dialogue. That's just how you piss people off. And I'm willing to listen to you, but when I say my opinion and you don't agree with it, respectfully say that I'm wrong, that you don't agree with it, instead of putting words in my mouth and trying to act insinuate that I'm a racist or that I'm closed-minded because of the things I believe in. That's what really pissed me off, and that's what pisses me off about this whole issue. There's people who are so set in their ways. I understand your side. I do. I get what you're saying. And I'm not going to call you a moron for thinking what you think. I believe in something else, and I would respectfully disagree with you. There's a lot of people who don't do that. Yeah,
and that's easy to ask for in an argument. I mean, to request that. But you want to move on? Let's talk a little Kyrie.
So
Kyrie, Kyrie wants out. We heard this on Friday. He wants out. He wants out of Cleveland. He wanted out after they won it all. Clearly, there's no like no one really knows. I don't give a shit about sources close to the team. Like I don't fucking care about that, because who knows what's true, who knows what's not. What's true is he wants out. He wants out of Cleveland. And initially, the Cavs had leverage in all trade talks. I still think they have a little bit, but initially they had leverage. And he said that his preferred destination's not like they give a shit where he wants to go. They want to get the most out of him. If they have to send him to Milwaukee in a 3-team deal to get the most out of it, guess what? They'll send him in Milwaukee. He's under contract with the team for 2 more years. He has nothing about getting traded. Nothing. It's the full team option here for what they want to do. But now that all these reports are coming out that it's dysfunctional between him and LeBron right now, their leverage, they still have it, but it's slowly going on a downward spiral where he wants to go, either Minnesota, New York, the Cavs, Minnesota, New York, the Spurs, or the Knicks. Did I say the Knicks already?
I don't think, no.
Minnesota, New York, the Spurs, or
the Knicks. Yeah, you did say it twice.
Okay. Well, there's another team I don't really remember, but basically, Cleveland's not going to give him up unless they can get a lot out of it. They don't care about how bad of a situation it is with him and LeBron now. If they can get a lot out of it, whatever. That's what they'll do. I have no idea. It'll probably have to be a 3-team trade. Maybe Cleveland will get Melo. And the problem is, though, they've had such a point guard problem these past few years. You like no more. I don't want to see Darren Williams on the court anymore, getting extended minutes in the finals. I don't want to see anything like that. I want to see Matthew Dellavedova. I want to see a good, solid backup point guard for them, and they've never had it. Kyrie's always been the whole thing that they have.
Well,
him and LeBron are so ball dominant.
Yeah,
they need a good backup option. They signed Derrick Rose, 1 year, $2.1 million. When was the last time, I tweeted this out the other day, when was the last time a 28-year-old former NBA MVP signed a deal for 1 year for only $2,075,000?
Well, yeah, I mean, and you've never seen a former MVP at 28 be as beat up as Derrick Rose. The guy's a walking injury.
He last year played like 64 games. That's pretty good. That's pretty solid. 18 points per game. But clearly his plus-minus was horrendous. Bash the guy because the Knicks are an insanely dysfunctional team. Look at, okay, D-Rose, this is the backup point guard the Cavs are looking for. A guy who can be a great sixth man, defensive liability, plays 25 minutes a game, and you got him for the price you wanted. I thought they were going to have to move someone else and sign him for like 1 year, $13 million. 1 year, $2 million. Alex, mark my words, Derrick Rose will not be starting for the Cleveland Cavaliers opening night in the 2017 season. I don't care if Kyrie's there. I don't care if obviously if Kyrie's there, he's not going to start. But if Kyrie's gone, that means they need to get just a good point guard that can help this team now that's very solid. If they can get Bledsoe out of it, fine. If they can get, like just a good point guard out of it, I hear these things about, oh, yeah, maybe they'll trade with the Knicks. They'll take the French Frank, the guy they drafted 8th overall, and like a couple future picks or whatever. LeBron doesn't want future picks. The guy's going to be 33 in December. He wants to win right now. Maybe if but fine. Like,
don't you think that the writing's on the wall? Don't you think Dan Gilbert knows LeBron's gone after this season? Why would he cater to LeBron anymore? He knows that he's not signing back with him.
Because he has nothing else. So maybe he thinks LeBron might leave, but he's not 100% certain, and he wants to do whatever. He has nothing. Dan Gilbert has nothing. He has salary cap hell, a Kyrie Irving who wants out, a LeBron James who might leave after next year, and a 28-year-old Kevin Love. After that, you have a below-average Tristan Thompson, and then just a bunch of veterans that LeBron wanted to get in there for some bad contracts and whatnot. It's a bad situation. He's putting all his eggs in one basket to win as much as they can while the Cavs championship window is closing. They trade Kyrie, they have to get a great return that LeBron would really want to play around for the next couple of years.
And I think
I don't know what that return is.
That'd be stupid. That would be stupid because they're not getting LeBron back. LeBron's gone. That's for me. I'm like 100% certain LeBron will not be signing with the Cleveland Cavaliers after this offseason. After they lose in maybe the Eastern Conference Finals, they might not even make it to the finals. Who knows? If they trade away Kyrie and Dan Gilbert actually does what he should do, and that's stock up on draft picks and try to draft the next LeBron James potentially, then that's the way to go. Then this is going to be LeBron's last year. I don't know how Dan Gilbert doesn't see that. I don't know how he doesn't assume it's going to happen. He left Cleveland once. He'll do it again. The guy's turning 33 years old. He knows that his career is going to be over sooner rather than later. Why would he stay in Cleveland? I'm not this is actually a decision I would agree with. LeBron should leave Cleveland. It is a dumpster fire.
Where would he go? Where should he go?
He's LeBron James. He can go wherever he wants to go. He can go to OKC. He can go to San Antonio. He can go anywhere. They'll make room. The guy, and this is another thing about LeBron James. He doesn't need to make a lot of money. The guy makes more money than any athlete in the world. Maybe he's number 2 or 3, but he's LeBron James. You see his pizza place? It's blowing up. The place is aflame. It's doing very well, John. So the guy's gonna always have money. Why doesn't he do what Kevin Durant did and just sign a veteran's minimum, sign for very little?
Durant didn't sign for very little.
He didn't sign for the veteran's minimum, but he took less money. Take less money, and get what you're worth to an extent, but take less money. If you really want to win, if you want to cement your legacy, go play with San Antonio. Go play with a team in the West. Try to challenge the Golden State Warriors, or maybe stay in the East. I don't know where the hell he'd go in the East. There's really no other team that he'd probably want to go to, but he shouldn't stay. And the reality is, his second stint in Cleveland will not be remembered very fondly once his career is over. This is the most. It's underwhelming.
I don't think it's definite that he's out. It's not definite by any stretch. I think it depends on how they handle the Kyrie thing. Maybe him and Kyrie patch things up. They come back better than ever.
Regardless, if Kyrie's traded or if he stays, LeBron James will be gone at the end of this season. He might be going to LA Lakers or the Clippers.
Kyrie's back. What if Kyrie's back? D Rose provides great minutes off the bench. They get someone out, whatever, and then
is that team good enough to beat the Warriors? Are they good enough to beat the Warriors?
No. What if they do? They weren't. They won't. Who knows? If they were to beat the Warriors or play them a lot competitively, I could see him saying, I don't think anything's definite at this point, but I just want to see where Kyrie goes. That's all I want to see. I think it's really just going to be a random sleeper team that offers the Cavs a lot at the end, quietly, and then he just goes there. I don't know if it'll be Phoenix for it to be Minnesota, but I don't know if Minnesota wants to give up Wiggins. Who knows? The Celtics could be in there too. The Celtics
trade IT, Jay Crowder, and a first for Kyrie. I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the Cavs would do that in a heartbeat, but I mean, who knows? It's up in the air. I really don't. I think people think that they know, with all these sources and stuff, but no one really knows what's going on, and it's up in the air, man. It's up in the air. Everything with the Cavs' future. I don't know who's going to be the starting 5 on the court for them next year. I don't know who's going to be there. I don't know where Kyrie's going to be. The ambiguity in this is pretty exciting to me, just with the whole Cavs situation. Who knows? By 2018-19, we were in 2011 with a 27-game losing streak and all that stuff. It's completely up in the air. Also, by the way, a little side note. Did you know that Kyrie Irving, that number 1 pick to draft him, was the Clippers pick that the Cavs traded? And the Cavs got that pick in a dump trade that the Clippers did. And then the Clippers ended up getting the number 1 pick.
Really? Wait, yeah. Who was trading that? You cut out there for a second.
It was like Baron Davis was traded to the Cavs and something else. The Clippers' first-round pick, and it turned out to be number 1. 10 chance of it being number 1, and they got it.
Yeah, they've gotten very lucky in the draft. Very
lucky. But yeah, I have no idea where he's going to end up. But let's move on here for time interest as well. Coming up, and there's been a lot of stuff that's happened yesterday with your Red Sox. Eduardo Nunez, a very solid third baseman from the Giants. Some other moves that have happened, nothing really too crazy as of yet. Did you see Todd Frazier's first at bat with the Yankees last night?
The triple play, home run, right? Or triple play?
Triple play.
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
And then his and New Yorkers going nuts because his walk-up songs New York, New York. And quick interjection. New York fans are, I think they're atop my list for most annoying fans in all.
Yeah,
sports.
they are annoying. I agree because there's just more of them. There's a greater magnitude, so there will be more annoying fans.
But they have this like thing where they think that like New York, like playing in New York is still this like unbelievable thing, even when their teams suck. It's like, it's New York, you gotta come. Not, guess what? It's not that great to be a New York Knicks. It's not that great to be a Jet. It's not that great to be a Giant. It's not that great to be a Net, and it's not that great to be a Met. Maybe a Yankee. But like they act like it's this big honor to be in. Like, no, piss off. Like you guys need to realize that like you're not as good as you think you are. You're not.
Tell them how you really feel. Come on.
No, but I think it's ridiculous because like Todd Frazier coming up with New York, New York. It has Yankee fans creaming in their pants and going, "Oh my God, did you see that? He's doing Frank Sinatra.
He loves Frank though. That's been his walk-up song since he was on the Reds.
Yeah, and that's good for him. But like, it's like stop like overreacting to every little thing that having to do with your team.
So my good move that I've seen so far, the Diamondbacks getting JD Martinez, and they got the Dodgers got some prospects out of that. Martinez is a good outfielder. That'll add to Arizona's depth. They're trying to go hard for the playoffs. They sent Joel Lugo. I've been working a lot of AAA games at my new job, so I know a lot of these prospects now, unfortunately. But I thought they got a few good prospects out of that. Jaime Garcia went to the Twins, helped them with their bullpen.
Pitching problem,
yeah. I mean, not their pitching, their starting pitching, excuse me.
Yeah,
I mean, Trevor Cahill to the Royals. The Royals have been doing really well. They're going for a playoff spot too.
I think the best move, two-parter, is the Yankees and that Todd Frazier, David Robertson move, because that not only helped them out with a little depth in the bullpen and getting them another bat, it swept Todd Frazier out from under the Red Sox. Like they were trying to make that move. And taking Todd Frazier away, it prevented the Red Sox from adding depth at that third base, which they ended up filling today with Eduardo Nunez. But that was a great move. You got to give kudos to the Yankees. I'm not quite probably not as high on it as most Yankee fans because they overreact to everything. But it's still a very good move. But I don't think we're going to see any like major blockbuster deals.
You don't think Verlander's out? You don't think any other big name is going to be on the move?
I don't think so. I don't see it happening. Maybe Darvish it might be the biggest name.
Darvish might get moved. I think Verlander could.
If Verlander's moved, that's massive. That's a guy who should have won the Cy Young last year.
Yeah. So. Also, just going around everything else. So with the Red Sox too, I think they're the most like intriguing team with this trade deadline because most other teams have moves made already so far. There's some relievers. Do you think? I know they need a bullpen help with the Phillies. Pat Neshek, that guy's been insane all season long. He's been great. Do you think the Red Sox are going to go in for him? And the only reason why I'm asking like that in more of a reluctant tone, teams are calling the Phillies about Neshek now. So do you think the Red Sox are really going to buy hard on this guy?
I mean, they might. I think it also depends on the status of Joe Kelly and Carson Smith. Carson Smith's rehabbing. On my other podcast, we talked with Sean McAdam, now of Boston Sports Journal, formerly of Comcast Sportsnet in New England, and he gave us an update saying that Carson Smith is starting his bullpen sessions and side sessions. Joe Kelly as well. If they get both of those guys back, I don't know if Dombrowski's going to feel the need to add a Neshek and get rid of some more of his prospects.
Especially at that price, like it's going to be a high price.
It is. The guy, what's his ERA is like a what, 1.15?
He's gone like 27 innings without giving up a run.
And they might do that. They might. But I don't know. I don't know. This personally, side note, this Red Sox team, I hate them. I've never disliked my own team more than this Red Sox team. We'll get to that in a second, but I don't think they're gonna go out and get a Neshek because I do think Joe Kelly will be back relatively soon. I think Carson Smith within the next month he'll be back, and by late August, early September, they'll probably still have that number one spot in the East. The only team that I see really challenging them is the Yankees. Even then, I don't think they're going to catch him. The Rays have been sucking as of late. So have the Red Sox, though. They're on the West Coast trip, though. So I don't know if they're going to add him. I think if the price be too high, and Dombrowski's already depleted this farm system enough.
I don't think like the bull. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think the bullpen is really like. Obviously, they need some help if these guys can't get healthy. This whole David Price shit going on has made him so unlikable to me. When he was on the Rays in 2008 and he came out and closed that series against the Red Sox, then the Phillies beat the Rays in the World Series. But when he came out and did that, he was a respectable guy. When he was on like the Rays still, or just the Blue Jays, he was really respectable.
You know what the difference is, though? You know what the difference between Tampa Bay, Toronto, and Boston?
He gets no media criticism in any other place.
No one gives a shit about baseball in Tampa Bay. They give a shit about their retirement fund and going on the beach on a Tuesday at 2. Like that's their
and what time Murder She Wrote is on.
Exactly. They love that shit. But
they love that shit. But no, seriously, like with David Price, with this stuff that happened with Dennis Eckersley, do you wanna here just
I'll give a recap.
Quickly recap that.
So Dennis Eckersley, the initial thing that set him off, which wasn't even the initial thing. David Price just has a vendetta against Boston sports media. They're watching the post-game show. Eduardo Rodriguez rehab start stats came up, and it was like 2 innings, giving up 6 earned runs and walking 4. Something ridiculous like that. It was a shitty start. And Dennis Eckersley, all he said was yuck. One word, yuck. He said yuck. David Price saw that, and as soon as Dennis Eckersley, this is on their way back from the West Coast or something, I forget. I think it was Anaheim. As soon as he saw that and Eckersley came on the plane, David Price, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, if it isn't the greatest pitcher of all time, the game comes so easy for him. And before Eck had a chance to even respond, Price said, "Get the F off the plane." Repeated it multiple times, telling him to get the F off the plane. I'll refrain from using the F-bomb. And a bunch of the players applauded. And there has yet to be an apology from Price to Eckersley.
He's not going to apologize.
There's yet to be an apology from John Farrell to Eckersley. And it seems like there's no one in the Red Sox locker room who was telling David Price that that's not the way we do things around here, because evidently it is the way they do things around there.
That is horrible. That is so horrible. That's a team that just doesn't even just show you David Price is soft towards media criticism. That shows you the team supports his softness to media criticism. This is a guy that's taken a lot of shit for not pitching well in the playoffs, and maybe, he's just had a few bad outings in the playoffs. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's the fact that he's mentally weak, and when that pressure comes up, when he knows everyone's watching, when it's the big stage, he chokes. You see when the media starts saying bad things about him, he goes nuts. And maybe he's just afraid of that media criticism, that it affects his game. Weaknesses get exposed in the playoffs. That's why he's bad in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, he's soft. All he is doing is cementing the idea that he is a softie, that he does not like criticism, he doesn't like to be critiqued, and that he can't take any negative feedback, and he cannot take the media doing their job. This isn't like Tim Wakefield saying this. This isn't Johnny Gomes saying this. This is a Hall of Fame pitcher. Someone who not only excelled as a starting pitcher, but excelled as a closer, who had a good career with the Athletics, pitched for the Red Sox, and has been an upstanding retiree from the game. Obviously had his skeletons during his playing career with his drug addiction. But this guy's gone through shit. He's gone through some shit. He's seen some stuff, and he's experienced the game on every spectrum. He gave up the Kirk Gibson home run in the 80s. He's been on that end. He knows what it's like to lose. He knows what it's like to lose in miserable fashion in the playoffs. If anyone can speak on this, it's Dennis Eckersley. But don't you dare speak on it when referring to one of David Price's teammates or David Price. This wasn't David Price reacting to Dennis Eckersley saying yuck to Eduardo Rodriguez. This was David Price waiting for Dennis Eckersley to say anything negative. And he was looking for an excuse to yell at him, to get on the good side of his teammates, because no one else in Boston likes him. And guess what? The fact that there's guys on this team that are supporting what he has said is despicable. The fact that John Farrell has not put out a public apology, has not condemned what David Price did, even though he has acknowledged that it happened, is ridiculous. The fact that Dave Dombrowski hasn't done anything, John Henry, Tom Warner, the fact that none of these people have said anything is ridiculous. Dennis Eckersley has been great to the Red Sox organization. And my theory for why they have not said anything is because they do not want to disrupt the baby. They don't want to piss off David Price more than he already is, because he's already such a soft guy that if you say one negative thing, he's going to react in a horrible way and probably shit the bed his next start. He is the epitome of softness. I want him out of Boston. I hate him. I hate this Red Sox team. Obviously you want your team to win. I don't really care what this team does from here on out, because I don't like them. I like Chris Sale. I like Craig Kimbrell. I like Mookie Betts and Andrew Benintendi. Dustin Pedroia, I'm not the biggest fan of him anymore. He's one of the guys who's lost a lot of respect in my eyes through this whole year since Ortiz has retired. He's not a real leader. He isn't. He's someone.
So is this team like? Well, what are your expectations come playoff time?
I mean, if any team gets hot at the right time, they can win. You saw what the Sox did last September in the middle of the month. I think this is a soft team. I don't think they're making it out of the ALDS if they make it there. They're soft. Maybe they rally around it. Maybe they use this as something to come together on. But even if that's the case, I still don't like it. I think that's stupid. You're getting pissed off at people for doing their job. You're not professional. You do have a responsibility to be professional to the media. David Price doesn't think so, and he's a prick. I hate him. He's my least favorite player in the MLB, and he's on my favorite team. That's the reality. I've never disliked a player in Boston more than I dislike David Price. On
that note, I think we should do it on that note.
Is that it? Should that be the rant to end it?
Yeah, that's it. That should end it that way. So thanks for listening to the Jon and Lebo show. You got Lebo's thoughts on David Price there. We'll be back next week, and after that brief hiatus, we'll be back every week to give you guys some beautiful insight on some things.
You use the strangest adjectives.
Insight.
No, beautiful. You said beautiful insight. Why is it beautiful? You also, another thing you do, you say putrid a lot.
It's my favorite adjective, putrid.
Grotesque and putrid are your two favorite adjectives.
Yeah, they are. You're absolutely right. The website, jonandleboshow.com, Twitter at Jon and Lebo Show, us at J_Sokoloff. You're at Alex_Lebowitz. Yeah, I'll say it for you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.